My name is Josephine Watson and I'm here today with Matt Wilson to discuss some of his insights into the influencer marketing. So Matt, tell me, what's the best way for affiliates and brands to tip their toes into the water of influencer marketing and find out if the channel is going to work for them?
I think probably the best approach is to go into it rather than wanting something up front. It's to realize that the prize is often delayed gratification in influencer marketing. So a community is based on a value exchange between an influencer and the audience. It's usually formulated around shared passions and shared subject matters. So you've got to, if you turn up there and just start putting your product in really overtly, you're probably going to get rejected by that community. It's often a long game, and it's more of a long-term approach that's going to get you best results. So rather than go in and just expect to get something back, go in there, provide some value up front, maybe give some value, get yourself known before you start to say who you are. It's just like when you meet a human being for the first time. You don't turn up and start talking about yourself. You often ask them some questions, and then once you start to bond with them, then you can start to say, oh, check out my new casino products. That's probably the best way.
And which is the most effective for brands and affiliates to target? Is it individuals or groups and communities?
Okay, so we represent many groups and communities, and what we do is we network those communities. So we act as the facilitator to brands. So we speak to a brand, listen to what they want to do, and then help them find the right collection of pages and people, creators and curators, and also the best way for them to get the result that they want. So I think that there's no one size fits all, and I think that some influencers you can speak to direct and get that same result. But really, what you want to do is you want to look at where the audience is spending their time. They're probably on social media. They're probably watching videos made by fan TV, like we've got a lot of fan TV pages, or around certain influencers. So then you want to go as close to them as possible and say, this is our product, what do you think the community likes? How do you think we're best speaking to that community? Because the influencer or the manager of that influencer are probably going to give you an idea that they're passionate about and that they know the audience will enjoy, so then everybody wins. Whereas if you're kind of working with somebody that's a bit more distant from that, or you're just speaking to them on email or something, not giving them much information, you're probably not going to get what you want out of it. So it's like anything in life, you're going to get out of it what you put in, and if you're up front, you have an open conversation and you listen to what the creators are passionate about, then you're going to probably get a better result.
What can the various levels of influencers now charge for a social media post?
The tiers, we're all influencers, right? I'm an influencer to a degree. I do video on LinkedIn. I've just done a brand deal with BP, which is crazy because I'm just a normal guy that does video talking about my everyday life. So we're in this world now where technology, the mobile phone, social media has allowed people to organize around shared interests, which means that if I can be an influencer, then for crying out loud, somebody that's been doing it for years and that has got 27 million followers or 10 million followers, they're going to be, and that make loads of videos that every one of them goes viral. You're talking about lots and lots of eyeballs, and some of these deals can be and should be long term. So, you're talking about huge variance, right? So you might be able to get something for £100, you might be able, which is like a nano influencer, but equally, we do deals that are 7 figures that are brokered on behalf of some influencers because they've got a big audience, and these are season-long deals whereby the brand is giving the audience and the influencer and facilitating them to hang out more via the medium of video or on a narrative that's appropriate. So yeah, it can be huge,
And which social platforms have the highest engagement rates for influencer marketing, and how's this changing at the moment?
So Tubular is a good source for video analysis of engagement, and they cover all social platforms. What is definitely the case is that YouTube tends to perform better for branded content than Facebook, and I think that they're different platforms. So if you think about it, when you're on Facebook and it's a lot more transient. So if you like something, that might show up in my feed. It doesn't really work like that on YouTube. YouTube's a little bit more, you might follow a certain creator and go into a video and invite where you watch that video, whereas Facebook, you're slipping between, and Instagram, you're scrolling, so you might watch something for a few seconds and keep moving. So you definitely get better engagement, I would probably say, on Facebook, but that doesn't mean that on YouTube, but that doesn't mean that you can't get great engagement in other places. There's a few other things that make up a few other variables for success than just saying it's that or that.
So then, looking beyond engagement, to what extent is it now possible to measure the actual success or effectiveness of influencer actions?
So again, there's no one size fits all. It's like if what you're trying to do is you're trying to get people from a social media community to come to an event like this, then you're going to put in a framework that's going to measure that, which might be that there's a discount code and the amount of people that turn up here with that discount code at the gate. That's how you're going to measure if it's worked or not. Equally, it might be that you're trying to generate views and engagements on some branded content because you want people to know that a certain new product launch exists, So views might be how you're measuring it. So again, it's difficult to just take real basic questions and add them to a field and an area that's so nuanced, so multifaceted and so varied. So but the key thing is, which you've touched upon, which is really cool, which is what is it that you actually want to achieve? That's how you measure it.
So obviously Instagram recently added a paid tag to influencer posts, and CAP in the UK recently issued new guidelines. Is ever greater transparency anathema to the industry, or is it ever necessary?
It's obvious to someone like me that's worked in this industry from before influencer marketing was a term, to tell when there's a brand involved, However, what we've got to realise is that certain people and parts of society are a little bit more vulnerable and a little bit more prone to think that a paid campaign might actually be a genuine endorsement. So I think that it's really important that that's made clear. I don't think it always needs to be something like paid to do that. I think that sometimes it can be quite obvious. For instance, if we're saying Buffalo Water has given us the challenge to, go out and, do the safari challenge or whatever it might be, then I think that's quite obvious. But yeah, I think that transparency, and you do need to have these catch-all terms and ways of approaching it just to make sure that people are playing fair and that the audiences aren't duped or taken advantage of, especially those that are vulnerable.
So obviously the Fire Festival debacle showed the power of influencer marketing, but at its worst to a wider world. What can brands and managers learn from this?
What can brand and managers learn from this? Look, cons go on in all manner of society in the world. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a culture around faking it before you're making it. There's a lot of people that have made it by faking it. So there's lots of fire festivals that have happened, and we're actually now thinking, oh my God, that guy is legit, he's amazing. But actually it was all based on a lie or some kind of fabrication in some way, shape or form. So I think it's difficult to sit here and say, how can we avoid people ever getting taken advantage of or duped? But, I think that because actually loads of people got caught up in that and thought it was legitimate, and there's lots of campaigns like that actually are legitimate. So it's difficult to say, but I think you've got to do your due diligence. If you're an influencer and a brand's trying to work with you, I think you've got to check it out and check everything adds up. Equally, if you're a brand and you're getting offered something, you've got to check it out. And actually, if you scroll and if you click and if you investigate, usually you can probably find things out. But yeah, it's tough when, as a consumer, if you're looking at that and you're seeing all these things that are going on, of course it adds up, but that doesn't mean that newspapers haven't been able to make a narrative appear to be true when actually it's false. This is what is happening at scale in everyday life, in many different scenarios other than influencer marketing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Matt, and thank you to our audience who has joined us today. If you want to find more about the event, go to the hashtag LAC 2019, and otherwise we'll see you soon.